Frank used to use this analogy of the Constitution's a thin document, but it covers the way our whole society here operates. Self-sovereign identity, your own identity, use whatever provider you want, and hook it into a global graph.
Oh, hold on. Just getting a call here on my laptop.
The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys blasting off with Braxton Woodham. He's the president of Amplica Labs. They are doing the Frequency Parachain on Polkadot. We had him on the show, what was it, 8 months ago?
Or so.
Something like that, yeah.
September?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Lots has happened in the meantime.
Yeah, I don't think our frequency chain was live.
Yeah, we just got to briefly talk about MeWe. What are you thinking about most recently in regards to the social web?
Well, we're seeing progress. It's kind of becoming a reality, I would say. It's obviously a long road ahead, but also now starting to see a little bit of road behind, which has been positive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we see, you know, the fundamental premise we have is that the internet itself should be the global social network we all operate on. So if you think about the history of the internet, you know, with TCP/IP, you had a protocol that enabled this decentralized network of computers. Mm-hmm. And I was actually old enough to be on that, and that was pretty not very user friendly. Then when you had the HTTP protocol, you then have this linked data layer on top of the kind of network of computers, right? And that gave birth to the web itself. But then really all that data that's on those computers is really created by people. So it's really a network of people. The challenge with that next layer is that you need some sort of shared state around, you know, your identity, you know, to store information now. You can't just be pushing data across a wire with a protocol. You need to store it and persist it. So you show up with a profile and, oh, Jay's back and he was here 3 times. And, you know, so that gap got filled with Web 2, with Read Wide Web, with private platforms, right? And that gave birth to an era of the web where all of that infrastructure was driven by corporate interests, profit, and that gave birth to the surveillance economy. So what we're trying to do is say we need to step back and re-engineer that layer, the social layer, to be a decentralized layer of the web itself. So to us, that's not only is it not one platform, but it shouldn't even be as simple as one blockchain. It shouldn't be tied to one share price or one token. It should be a broad layer that we all participate in that doesn't really accrue economic benefits to some small segment of society.
Right.
And so to make that a reality, you know, we started with DSMP, the Decentralized Social Networking Protocol, and then we said there need to be different technologies that implement that protocol to make the web socially enabled. So Frequency handles the graph of that. So there's these 3 phases, and of that we see broadly, and we're now well into the first phase. Phase 1 is getting self-sovereign identity, your own identity, use whatever provider you want, and hook it into a global graph. And so
cool.
That's phase 1.
And you guys just partnered, or you guys just announced that you're working with Kilt.
Kilt?
And that's just one option, right?
That's right, and Kilt and MeWe. So the idea is you need a graph, one chain, right now the only chain to implement that graph and to provide the communication substrate for all these IDs is Frequency.
Yeah.
That messaging layer. Kilt can provide the decentralized IDs that plug into that graph, right? Others could as well. Other blockchains could do both. And then MeWe has taken this bold step to be the first social network to run on this system, to bring that user base into this world where you can have your own ID, your own universal handle that you can use all over the internet now. So instead of just being like, I'm at Braxton on Twitter, I can just be at Braxton, period.
Right.
So we're now deeply into phase 1. Phase 2 for us, the very big picture is now leveraging that infrastructure to enable control over your personal data, how it's used and how it's verified. So we have, you know, verifiable attributes. So if you're a doctor or a lawyer, people can prove that. Digital assets and tokens can enable that on chain.
Okay, yeah.
As well as provenance of posts. So we're working with Starling Labs, for example. You know them they do projects like if you're capturing like war crimes in Ukraine, how do you take fingerprints of those videos and photos, store them on chain so they can't be modified. The fingerprints can't be modified.
Right.
The actual media we don't put on chain, and they don't, but the fingerprints.
Sure.
So then we can live in a world of what's real and what's not. We need that infrastructure needs to exist.
Yeah.
And then once that data infrastructure is in place, the third phase is then the value phase, where we can invert the current surveillance economy, where once we know who you are and you have your own identity and you control your data, you can actually get value for it on your own terms, right? And it opens up this new economic system. So those are the phases, and we're deep into phase one now, which is really, really exciting.
So you guys had the foresight to start building this, when was it, 18 months ago?
Well, we started with DSMP
Yeah.
conceptually at the end of 2019. And
Okay.
we were looking for a layer one, hoping we could just, we try to build as little as possible.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't find a layer one solution built for what we believe are the scalable dynamics of social networking and messaging, where you need to have fixed price bandwidth, which what Frequency does.
Mm-hmm.
And Polkadot's architecture was uniquely suited for that because they provide fixed bandwidth allocations from the relay chain.
Mm-hmm.
So we could then in turn slice that up and make it consumable bandwidth on a layer one chain for messaging. So like spectrum bandwidth, you might think of spectrum auctions in the radio TV world. So that's, to us, what opens up blockchain at scale for messaging.
What's been your view of the social networking landscape? As the Twitter files came out, we learned about all the censorship on the government level.
I think it's playing out even faster than we anticipated.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
In some ways, I think it's positive that we looked at how harmful the current situation was for society and threatening, we believe, democracies.
Yeah.
And seeing that people are waking up to that at scale so fast is really a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we're now in a phase of people trying different things, different apps, from showing up and getting varying degrees of success, but all very early stage. And we're focused on infrastructure, not a particular app.
Right.
And we think that if things work out the way we hope, the web will be the social network, and different apps will be more niche, and there won't be just one Walmart of social the way there is today.
Jack started that Blue Sky project too.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, we look at all the projects out there. He's also involved with Nostra, I believe, and some others. We try to find things we can learn and ways we can partner with any project. We're not, and I'm not trying to say we're in a partnership there, but we're trying to find, obviously, anytime we can, like MeWe, partners that we can work with to stitch together. We hope that eventually, like I said, this substrate layer will be there for everybody to use, and then obviously at the app level, different apps will be purpose-built for different things. The Twitter-like use cases, the groups use cases, which MeWe's focus on groups, or the broadcast use cases like YouTube today. There's all kinds of upstart Web3 video services. So, but we'd like to get those all in this universal graph. We think that would enable a different level of collaboration and discovery. We've been meeting with a bunch of folks. If you go to dsmp.org, there's a council that's getting involved. Folks that are, I won't name names here yet, but we could talk about that.
Sure.
A group that was involved in the internet itself, pre-web, TCP/IP and other protocols that are more fundamental, and they've seen the evolution of things. And what was fascinating to me is there's a shared sense that, they saw the period of hope and promise.
Right.
Some of it realized, and then that turn with Web 2, and have been, like a lot of us, alarmed and concerned. So what's striking to me is how consistent at least the attitude of folks who are in the technology, how consistent the view is of level of concern, and but then still determination to kind of turn things back towards the light,
Yeah.
And that's with this new era of AI kind of dawning so quickly, a critical turn to make is to get back towards the light before we start to see this overlay of AI on everything we do in the digital sphere.
I just saw actually Ursula posted on Twitter that this transition of the 20 million users on the MeWe social media platform, that's going to start transitioning actually over to Frequency now. And you've been working with them for how long?
We launched our chain after Thanksgiving. Frequency launched right there very late in the year last year. Then we got really serious about getting them onto it, starting in the new year.
Oh, hold on. Just getting a call here on my laptop. Oh my God. It's Jeffrey. It's the CEO of MeWe.
Big of the devil.
That's wild. Okay, let's talk to him.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. This is crazy. Yeah, Jeffrey Edel. He's the CEO of MeWe. Just called in. Jeffrey, welcome to the show. We were just talking about you. How are you?
I'm great. Somebody's got to watch what Braxton says, so I decided to make sure I put my ear in on this call.
Could you guys give us a quick rundown, actually, just about how these two projects got together?
Very interesting how it happened. It was almost like a Hollywood story, and I don't know if you know my background is a little bit of Hollywood as well as tech.
Yeah.
I literally, one of the shareholders of MeWe sends me a link to an article about Project Liberty. I look at the article, I read it, I said, oh my, this is incredible. The combination of what we do at MeWe for privacy and protecting individuals' accounts and information with no amplification. We'd love to be part of this new social web that they were envisioning.
Yeah.
And so I called a friend of mine up and I said, do you know anyone over at Project Liberty or the McCourt Group? And was somebody that went to Wharton School with him and connected me to Braxton. I get on the phone with Braxton and, we were fast connected. And so that's how it all started at the beginning there.
What was the impetus to start MeWe itself? I mean, we've heard quite a lot about these 20 million users that are already using MeWe. How did you get 20 million users to come over? What's the philosophy that's bringing them all in?
So MeWe started in 2012, and it was started by the co-founders, Mark Weinstein and Jonathan Wolf. And Mark and Jonathan were reacting to what they heard Mark Zuckerberg talk about, how privacy is a thing of the past. Now we're going to capture your data. That's just people. You should just get used to it.
Yeah.
And so he formed MeWe to be an antithesis of that, to say, no, that's not the way it's going to be. Now, it's taken a long time from 2012 till now, till people, it's really at the forefront of people's consciousness. But you see what happens in our society when you grab people's data and information, things go off the rails. It could happen anything from amplifying divisive misinformation. It could ruin your community activities and connecting with all the people in your social network group. So it was formed there.
Okay, so you've been accumulating these members since 2012. How many members are active on the network today?
We don't really talk about that because that changes over time.
Sure.
We've had anywhere from 1.5 million to 3.5 million, depending upon the season or the activity. But it varies over time. But it's interesting. We're very community and group driven, group based. So we have 630,000 plus interest groups. So if Jay, you wanted to come on the platform and boost your podcast following, you just come on, start Jay's group, and all of a sudden you have many people joining you. We find, I had one artist come in that had been on, I think, Facebook for a long time.
Yeah.
And within, I think, 3 weeks, they had like 8,000 people following them, whereas over on Facebook, they'd spent 3 years on there and they only had a couple thousand. So things happen very differently when your feeds aren't interrupted and you can reach your members and reach your fans.
That's it. We need to start a Kusamarian group and get this information about the Polkadot ecosystem out.
Absolutely. It's going to be really interesting once we're fully on the Web3.
Well, what's with that? It sounds like you have a pretty successful social platform here. Why take a risk and hop over to the Frequency Parachain, which is brand new? We've untested. Why take that risk?
Great question. I think every board member asked me that question. Lots of shareholders asked me that question. And most people don't even know what Web3 or blockchain even is. They think that's where you're going to get your Bitcoins. But Braxton and I developed a great trust, reviewing Project Liberty, then meeting Frank and seeing the team and seeing what they were all about, just really align the ethos and the values and the morals of what we're trying to do and accomplish and change social media for the world. So I think that's one reason. And that's really a non-business reason, which is interesting. I didn't give you the money-making side first. At this point also, I want to do great for society. I think, I have children. I just had actually my first grandchild born last week, which is a shocker here. That's why I cover my gray hair. But anyway, I just want to do right for the world. So in that vein, plus, look, big tech talks about privacy, and they talk about things. You'll see Apple ads and so forth. We're really doubling down on that concept, because we're a privacy-based application But once you throw it onto the blockchain and you have all the protections that exist there, you're allowing technology to protect people as well. So you're sort of putting your money where your mouth is. We also felt that there was an alignment of the ethos of what MeWe is doing in terms of privacy, no amplification, the no algorithms, no ad side of things. That just fits very nicely into the whole Web3 world and into tying into frequency and some of the protocols that Braxton and his team have developed.
It felt very much like Kismet when Jeffrey and I first talked. And we've found, I think Jeffrey, it's like personally the two of us, all the way up to Frank and his vision, Jeffrey's team, our team at Labs. It's one of those rare situations you find where there's an ethos that kind of permeates, that everybody kind of gets behind. So we've had this, I feel like the culture across different companies has been really gratifying to see. I was telling Jay earlier, it's like it's been restoring my faith in humanity to see this come together, over the last year. People working together, different countries, different companies, across different boundaries and borders.
I was at the consensus event, and Braxton and I were up on stage, and we were doing this together on stage, which was great. And I had people coming up to me after they had a few drinks saying, I want to shake your hand. Taking 20 million users and all your groups over to Web3 is a bold move. It's a new frontier, and you're a frontiersman. And I just said, yeah, I'm going to make it to California, though. I'm not going to get slaughtered on the way, because this is ripe for the Web3 community. And we feel with what Braxton has put together and Frequency and the hard work his team has done, it's scalable at a pretty minimal cost. And that'll accommodate the trillion types of transactions that we hope to have over time, or even the billion or so transactions that exist on our platform throughout a year.
How are the members taking this idea of transitioning? Are they all going to be forced to transition, or is it opt-in? How's that going to work?
We're actually stepping into this slowly. We have a live beta now. So literally you can go right now to the MeWe.com/Web3 and get your handle. You can claim your handle through MeWe for this new Web3.
Right.
That's right now web-based, and it's for new people that sign on. Then we're going to move slowly into migrating by the end of this quarter a number of people off our platform. By the end of the year, we hope to have everybody teased in a way that they move onto this platform as well, by getting a handle, having some access to a token for utility purposes and governance. So they'll have some control on the platform, which will make them feel really good. So we think it'll happen over the next 6 months.
And on the technical level, how does that look? Are people going to be writing down seed phrases, or?
No, that's another pioneering thing we did hand in hand with MeWe, which was pretty incredible to watch. The two teams work together, but we've developed at Amplica Labs, we developed an embedded wallet that is not designed to have tokens and deal with money transmitting, any of that complexity.
Yeah.
It's just purely for your API keys to get onto your keys to get on the chain.
Mm-hmm.
So we work jointly with the MeWe team to develop a flow that's low friction, feels like a registration flow. You can find it yourself on the web. It gives people a seamless way to sign on, claim their handle, and then you're off to the races. And dealing with kind of the low friction user flow, the blockchain response time and all that, was a lot of work that required the two teams to work together, from design and UI to front-end development, all the way down to blockchain layer 1 development. But yeah, that all came together really well.
So this transition is happening now.
Yeah, Tuesday it's been announced. There was a bunch of articles that got picked up in the last couple of days. The board's excited about it. The shareholders are. And you asked about the people on the platform. So we literally formed a group, a Web3 group on the platform, and there's about 1,000 people in it right now that just want to be part of the first mover here, but they can't migrate yet.
Right.
That will happen soon for them.
Awesome.
I have to get somewhere, but I did want to call in and make sure that you guys were keeping things kosher there back on the East Coast.
All right. Well, thanks for setting us back on track. Yeah. Next time we're in the same place, let's get together for our own Space Monkeys interview, okay?
You got it. Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me on, and I'll leave you to Braxton. Good luck,
It's a pleasure.
Have a good one, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, so we're going to have over 1 million members of MeWe working on the frequency chain.
Short order, yeah.
Yeah. earlier in our conversation, you were talking about phase 3. You're kind of alluding to kind of a source of truth, a sense of truth online. You're speaking about AI.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, this is something that I'm pretty concerned about. I heard a couple weeks ago that Facebook is getting filled up with accounts that are just producing BS historical documents with BS historical photos, and they're getting huge followings. People are sharing these fake histories around. I worry what this is going to do, not only to the social landscape online, but to the social landscape in the real world.
Definitely.
What are you thinking about this stuff?
Well, that's why I mentioned you when we were walking here in the streets of New York about the fact that I've been thinking about this for many years, and while I'm not an AI engineer myself, I've worked with APIs, like I mentioned, leveraged AI services and APIs from Google and others back years ago, and was thinking about how powerful even then this technology is for natural language processing and implications. I read Bostrom's book. If you've read that, Super Intelligence, a quick plug. That's eye opener.
No doubt.
And so, we really feel like a lot of the urgency behind what we're doing with the social web was in the 3 phases was to get a foundation in place before, general AI emerges.
Yeah.
Obviously, things are happening fast. And so we think if you think about those 3 phases I mentioned, phase 1, identity on the graph, knowing who says what, that it's a real human and not an AI is really critical. And we need IDs that are anchored on to immutable sources of truth, blockchains, to really separate sources of, AI from humans. And then phase 2, in the data phase, if we can anchor, provenance of posts and verify facts, then that's a huge bulwark against not only disinformation that we've seen spreading right now with the humans, and bad actors, but in the future AI generating these fever dream, scenarios that can be surprisingly believable.
Right.
So that phase of data is critical. And then the 3rd phase, we're talking about the value phase. Value exchange is so important because you can imagine people leveraging AI to accrue value to themselves at the expense of other people at scale, right? Little bits of misinformation that get people to send in money to support some fake cause or all these things at scale.
Right.
You can use AI and somebody can accrue a lot of wealth really fast to take advantage of people at scale. So we want to get these pieces in place around identity, data, and value exchange so that by the time this stuff rises, we have guardrails in place. Obviously, there's a lot of other things with legislation and the AI community is doing things too. But we think this social layer, this network layer, with sources of truth and immutable data is a critical part of the picture.
So that data piece, this is all about kind of the origin of data and verifying where it came from, where it started. Does this go right to? I mean, I'm also kind of nervous about deepfake videos and
very much so,
right? Completely fabricated videos that look hyper realistic and make it seem like some city's under attack. Or right. I think back to remember War of the Worlds, like that radio broadcast that got everybody all freaked out.
That's right.
That's going to be happening.
That's a real risk, right?
Right.
That's why one fundamental concept of frequency is source dependent messaging. That all the messages across the graph, they come from a person. Ultimately, I mean, even if it's automated by a service that a person created, so somebody needs to take responsibility for these communications.
Yeah.
So if you can trace everything back to a real person, and then to your point, if you can also verify other core facts like where geographically was this image or video captured, not modified later, not fake. Like I have a green screen here in New York, and I'm saying something's happening in the Middle East, and it's like, no, it's not. It's here in New York. Or the pixel stamps, fingerprints, so those don't get manipulated with deepfakes. So all those kind of things, if we can start to anchor those, that's going to be a huge bulwark against deepfakes and AI generated kind of fiction, which if for entertainment could be fascinating, but for political purpose is really concerning.
It's a massive undertaking.
Yes. Well, a little can go a long way, right? If we have think about just simple ways to watermark and sign things. It might be at scale hugely pervasive impact to have very simple ways to watermark, kind of the source. This came from this person, the seal, that kind of thing. So we're definitely trying to take the approach of what's the least possible scope you could have for a solution at the largest scale, right?
Right.
Avoid extreme complexity.
Right.
I have our team look at like the HTTP spec. It's a pretty short spec, right? It's not that long.
Okay.
And so we always say we need everything to be fit in a few pages. If we're doing anything that we intend to scale, that's reams and reams of documentation, and you have to start to question whether you can really achieve mass adoption with that specification or protocol. So we're trying to keep things really lean. In fact, Frank used to use this analogy of the Constitution is a thin document, but it covers the way our whole society here operates here in the United States. So we're looking for that thin protocol layer that can have really dramatic impact on the way we all interact with each other.
Interesting. And how about peer review? I mean, you guys are kind of unlocking this proof of personhood, this, identity problem, which is actually a big one there. But, we have things on Twitter right now, the community notes I'm finding quite entertaining and interesting. Do you guys think about that at all?
Definitely. And citations and reputation management systems can be overlaid. So, people, there's a lot of discussion of, well, do you solve this? Do you solve this? It's like, well, you have to have this first layer to solve the next level up. So I think about looking out the streets of New York. If you want to have the ability to reach a lot of people with your business in New York, you need to be, there's public streets. You just need to secure a spot on the street. Where I grew up in kind of the countryside in Tennessee, you're not going to have anybody exposed to what you're doing. There's obviously a free market for real estate here that you can kind of come into and then get your exposure. And so, I think that that's what we're trying to facilitate, broadly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So phase one, you're deep into phase one right now.
Yep, deep into phase one,
Good
which
stuff.
is great because just a couple of years ago it was all hypothetical.
It was an idea.
Now it's real.
No doubt. And I mean, there's definitely urgency here.
Very much so.
Phase two on the horizon.
Yeah, design work's already happening on that side of provenance, verified attributes, those kind of the data layer. And we're hoping to find more partners, like the way that we partner with Kilt for identity.
Super cool.
We've already been in talks with different projects, early stage talks. I don't want to get any names wrong or details wrong, but we're definitely looking to partner for that layer, for the data provenance layer. So that's a big focus of ours right now. And then also just building out the network effects with this phase we're currently in as well. So, MeWe is such a great partner. The same way for a village, you need not only a bakery, you need a butcher, and you need all these, a grocery store. We're hoping that we can start to find entice other builders and applications to come on, other communities to come and join in. And then the great thing is the network effects now would be accrued to all the apps. They're not just held within the confines of one private application, right? So as they come in, there should be a snowball effect and a network of networks that just builds and builds. So that's what we're trying to foster.
Is Frequency going to be able to reach into other layer one networks around Polkadot as well? Like I'm thinking about Mythical, right? They're building a parachain on Polkadot. And they have a huge user base of gamers.
That's right.
That they're going to be bringing. Is there any possible synergies there?
Yes, we plan to reach out to them. So if you guys want to reach out, we'd love to talk. This cross-chain interaction is critical to this. It's one of the major promises of the Polkadot ecosystem, right? Is this landscape of different chains versus one chain to rule them all. And so that's why we started this with Kilt, and they've been a great partner, and we want to continue to see other interactions with other chains, without a doubt.
Well, it's really good getting to sit down and talk to you about all this. I know you have a lot going on. You have a lot happening in your head, and
we're running hot for sure.
Yeah, it's a big problem, and it's going to have huge ramifications for our future, the future of our children. And I'm just so glad that people like you and the whole team are working on this problem. So thanks very much.
Appreciate it. And appreciate you. People like you are out here too, fostering this ecosystem, helping us all be aware of each other and communicate. This is the social network right here too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right. Well, great to have you on, and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.